You've been negotiating with your client and you've got to the point where there's been some sort of a verbal agreement to go ahead, and you've now reached the point where you send off the physical agreement for sign off and closing the deal. Happy days, job's done, right? Well, truthfully, no, it isn't. Many times I've seen with clients, they've sent that final agreement and they still haven't closed the deal. The client or the prospect ends up going in a completely different direction. In fact, I have sometimes not gone ahead after being sent a formal agreement. So what causes this to happen? Well, there can be multiple causes. Sometimes the prospect you were dealing with, unbeknownst to you, was dealing with 2 or more vendors and they're sitting on more than one agreement, and perhaps yours doesn't come across as well as the other one they've got. Another thing that can happen is a stakeholder that's involved in the final sign-off process looks at your agreement and it doesn't quite match what they thought they were going to be getting from you. Or they may have a question, and then how well we handle that question can be a big part of whether or not that agreement actually gets signed off. So I'm going to give you 3 tips to avoid losing your deal at the final agreement stage. The first tip is to ensure that the agreement specifically is linked back to the client's original need. I see far too many written agreements that have no reference at all to the client, their original context or their problem statement, or how this proposed schedule of work is going to close that gap for the client. Many agreements are overly technical, have too much data about what we seem to be fascinated in, which is ourselves, and not enough linkage back to the client's original need. My second tip is, after sending the agreement, follow up promptly and make sure you add value. A good personalized follow-up shows care for the client and is another opportunity to have a conversation reminding them of why you as the vendor are the best person to solve their business issue or add value to their business case. My third and final tip is be prepared for final questions, objections, concerns that may come up when the actual written agreement is in front of your clients and their stakeholders. Before they ink the document, they may certainly have some final things they need to get off their chest to give them comfort that they're doing the right thing for their organisation. Be prepared for those questions, anticipate them, and practice answering them in a professional and non-concerned way, like you would probably practice the initial pitch. So there you go, 3 tips to ensure once you've sent that agreement off, it will be signed off. Link the agreement to the client's need, follow up promptly and make sure you add value, and make sure you're ready for those final questions.